It all started with what should have been a routine court appearance for Cardi B. On Tuesday, she stepped out of her civil trial during a lunch break, and instead of the usual paparazzi snapshots, the cameras captured a completely different kind of drama. A reporter, known for throwing loaded questions at celebrities, decided to poke the bear by asking Cardi about her supposed fourth pregnancy and potential issues with fraternity drama. For anyone who knows Cardi, you already understand that was not going to fly. Visibly irritated, Cardi snapped back, warning him to show respect and reminding him to keep her family matters off limits. Things escalated fast when, in the heat of the moment, Cardi allegedly tossed a pen in his direction. Now here's the million-dollar question: did she actually hit him, or did the pen just hit the ground? When you slow down the video footage floating around online, it doesn't look like she struck anyone directly. Instead, the pen seems to bounce harmlessly on the floor. But of course, the internet doesn't need hard evidence before spinning a story. Within hours, headlines screamed about assault, fans picked sides, and memes flooded timelines. What should have been a minor courtroom break quickly snowballed into a viral scandal, with everyone from casual Twitter users to mainstream media chiming in. Meanwhile, the reporter wasted no time flipping the script. He took to social media claiming he was now living in reasonable fear for his life. According to him, Cardi's fans had started threatening him, digging into his private life, and even doxing his family. Suddenly, what began as a tossed pen turned into a narrative about violence, harassment, and gang affiliations. Whether you believe his version or not, one thing is clear: this wasn't just about a pen anymore. It was about reputation, control of the narrative, and setting the stage for what might become a much bigger legal showdown. After Cardi's pen-tossing moment made its way online, the reporter at the center of the storm wasted no time in seizing the spotlight. Instead of brushing it off as a heat-of-the-moment reaction, he doubled down, releasing multiple statements about how he now feared for his safety. According to him, Cardi's massive fanbase, better known as the Bardi Gang, had crossed a dangerous line. He claimed they weren't just defending their idol, they were actively harassing him. In a series of social media posts, the reporter said he received direct threats, had his personal information leaked online, and even worried that his family could become a target. To make matters worse, he tied the entire situation to Cardi's husband, Offset, hinting that her marriage and alleged gang ties made the intimidation feel even more serious. The narrative he was building wasn't just about an angry celebrity throwing a pen, it was about a powerful star allegedly unleashing a mob on an ordinary journalist. But here's where the controversy deepens. Some fans started questioning his story. They argued that Cardi barely acknowledged him beyond the initial outburst, and if anyone took things too far online, that was the work of overzealous fans, not Cardi herself. Others accused the reporter of milking the drama for clout, pointing out how quickly he shifted the focus from the pen incident to painting Cardi as dangerous. Still, his claims carried weight in the court of public opinion. Headlines across major outlets began echoing his side of the story, framing Cardi as volatile and unpredictable. The idea of a pen assault quickly turned into debates about celebrity accountability, free speech for reporters, and whether Cardi had a pattern of lashing out when confronted. Suddenly, this wasn't just a messy viral moment anymore, it was a battle of narratives, Cardi fighting to control hers, and the reporter pushing his version hard enough to keep himself in the news cycle. As the reporter kept feeding his side of the story to the press, the internet turned into a battleground. Cardi's loyal supporters weren't going to let their queen be dragged without a fight, and the Bardi Gang flooded timelines with hashtags defending her. To them, the entire pen attack narrative was laughable. They pointed out that Cardi was simply reacting in the heat of the moment, and that the reporter had crossed a line by pressing her with what they called disrespectful or provocative questions. Memes started circulating, clips of the incident turned into jokes, with captions mocking the reporter for acting like a pen was a weapon. "Imagine being taken down by a bic," one fan tweeted, while another wrote, "Bro dodged that pen like it was a Marvel villain attack." For a while, it looked like the internet had chosen Cardi's side. But the other half of the conversation wasn't laughing. Critics argued that Cardi, as a global superstar with millions of fans, couldn't afford to act impulsively in public. Some even went further, claiming she had a history of letting her temper get the best of her, citing old altercations, court cases, and viral outbursts. To them, the pen wasn't the issue, it was the behavior pattern. The debate got so heated that neutral fans found themselves pulled into the chaos. Was Cardi the victim of exaggerated reporting, or was she proving yet again that fame hadn't taught her self-control? Social media platforms became echo chambers of clashing opinions, each side trying to shout louder than the other. And just when it seemed like the online storm was reaching its peak, whispers began spreading that this wasn't only about Cardi versus a reporter. Behind the scenes, powerful industry figures were watching closely, and some believed this incident could affect Cardi's future opportunities in ways her fans hadn't even considered yet. While social media was busy debating memes and hot takes, the entertainment industry was quietly taking notes. Cardi B isn't just a rapper, she's a brand, tied to endorsements, sponsorships, and major partnerships. Every move she makes in public reflects not just on her, but on the companies that invest millions into her image. And when the footage of her pen toss went viral, executives in boardrooms started asking uncomfortable questions. Brands that had previously worked with Cardi were suddenly reminded of her unpredictable streak. From her infamous shoe-throwing altercation at a fashion event to ongoing legal disputes, Cardi's history of public blow-ups wasn't exactly a secret. But this time, it was different. The clip was short, clear, and impossible to misinterpret. It was a superstar physically lashing out at a member of the press. Reports began surfacing that certain brands were reevaluating their relationship with Cardi. Nothing official was announced, but in the world of PR, even whispers can be damaging. Industry insiders hinted that executives worried about her volatility might think twice before attaching her name to family-friendly campaigns or big corporate partnerships. But at the same time, others argued that this unpredictability is exactly what keeps Cardi relevant. Love her or hate her, she dominates headlines and keeps people talking. In a world where visibility equals money, some saw the scandal as just another chapter in her roller coaster career, one that, ironically, might even boost her streams and keep her in the spotlight. Still, there was a darker angle to it all. If Cardi became seen as a liability, it wouldn't just hurt her endorsements, it could start to affect how the industry itself treated her. Event organizers, award shows, and even collaborators might distance themselves if they felt her reputation was spiraling. And while Cardi tried to downplay the incident, the truth was clear. The world wasn't just laughing at a pen toss. It was re-evaluating her place at the top. When the backlash refused to die down, Cardi knew she had to speak up. Staying silent wasn't an option, especially when the narrative was starting to paint her as dangerous and unhinged. So, in true Cardi fashion, she jumped on social media and addressed the controversy head-on. She dismissed the idea that tossing a pen was some kind of violent attack, saying people were blowing it way out of proportion. To her, the reporter crossed a line with his questions, and she reacted in the moment, something many of her fans could relate to. She framed it as a human slip, not a celebrity scandal. "Y'all acting like I threw a brick," she joked during one of her live streams, rolling her eyes at the headlines. But beneath the humor, it was clear she was frustrated. Cardi insisted she didn't instruct her fans to harass the reporter, claiming whatever happened online wasn't her responsibility. At the same time, she reminded people that she's been a target of constant criticism and media pressure since the very beginning of her career. In her eyes, this was just another example of the press twisting her actions into something bigger than they really were. Her team also moved strategically. Behind the scenes, PR advisors worked overtime, reaching out to media outlets and ensuring that Cardi's side of the story was heard. They emphasized her charitable work, her success as a mother, and her record-breaking career, trying to balance the volatile rapper headlines with reminders of her achievements. But damage control in the digital age isn't simple. The internet doesn't forget, and once a narrative takes hold, it's nearly impossible to erase. Cardi's statements calmed some fans, but critics weren't satisfied. To them, her explanations felt like excuses, and her humor only made the situation look less serious than it really was. And just when it seemed the drama was finally starting to cool down, something unexpected added fresh fuel to the fire. Just as Cardi's team thought they were steering the scandal back under control, new narratives started bubbling up online. Clips from her past resurfaced, moments where Cardi had clashed with paparazzi, fans, or even other celebrities. Suddenly, the pen incident wasn't being seen as an isolated outburst. Instead, people began piecing it into a larger pattern. Commentators on YouTube, TikTok, and podcasts started saying the quiet part out loud, that Cardi had built her brand on being raw, unfiltered, and loud, but that same authenticity might now be working against her. The phrase "Cardi being Cardi" stopped sounding like an excuse and started sounding like a warning. The reporter's camp, of course, leaned into this shift. He gave more interviews, carefully positioning himself as the victim of an aggressive superstar. The pen became a symbol in itself, an example of how unchecked celebrity power could turn even the smallest gesture into intimidation. For the media, it was the perfect story, a clash between fame, accountability, and the free press. Meanwhile, fans who once defended Cardi started expressing fatigue. Some admitted they were tired of constantly justifying her behavior. Others said they loved her music but couldn't ignore how often she found herself at the center of controversy. That split within her fanbase was new and dangerous. But perhaps the most shocking development came when rumors began swirling that this wasn't just a PR issue anymore. Whispers suggested that legal action might be on the table. Even if nothing official came of it, the mere idea was enough to keep the scandal alive in headlines, stretching what could have been a two-day story into weeks of nonstop coverage. At this point, the pen toss had grown into something bigger, a question about whether Cardi could keep thriving in a world that was starting to lose patience with her unpredictability. As the scandal dragged on, the internet did what it always does, digging deeper and spinning out wild theories. Rumors began circulating that Cardi's outburst wasn't just about one annoying reporter, but tied to bigger stressors behind the scenes. Some fans speculated that tension in her personal life, including whispers about her relationship with Offset, had her on edge. Others suggested that industry pressure, constant criticism, and ongoing legal battles were pushing her to a breaking point. None of this was confirmed, of course, but the speculation alone kept people hooked. "Is Cardi unraveling?" became a recurring headline across gossip blogs. And while many of the claims lacked evidence, the buzz created an image that was hard to shake, a superstar barely keeping her cool under the spotlight. What made it worse was how quickly comparisons popped up. Commentators started drawing parallels to other celebrities who had public meltdowns and saw their careers decline. Some even hinted Cardi might be heading down a similar path if she didn't rein it in. For fans, that thought was terrifying. For critics, it was vindication. Meanwhile, industry insiders were quietly fueling the conversation. Anonymous sources told outlets that certain executives were concerned about Cardi's stability. Whether those insiders were real or fabricated didn't matter, the public ate it up. Every rumor added another layer of intrigue, making the story feel bigger and darker than it probably was. Through it all, Cardi doubled down on being unapologetically herself. But even that stance played into the drama. Some saw it as strength, refusing to be silenced. Others saw it as reckless, the kind of attitude that might one day cost her everything she worked for. And just when it looked like the internet had picked apart every angle, the situation took an even stranger turn that nobody expected. By the time the dust started to settle, the pentoss incident had become one of the most dissected moments of Cardi B's career. What began as a heated reaction at a reporter turned into weeks of headlines, debates, and speculation that reached far beyond the original clip. And in the process, Cardi's image took a hit that even her most loyal fans couldn't ignore. For some, the scandal confirmed what they'd always believed, that Cardi was unpredictable, quick-tempered, and a liability in the spotlight. To others, it was proof of her authenticity, a reminder that unlike carefully polished celebrities, Cardi shows every side of herself, even the messy ones. The divide left her reputation hanging in a strange balance, celebrated for being real, but criticized for lacking restraint. Industry-wise, the story sent a clear message. Cardi may still dominate charts and command massive influence, but every outburst chips away at the trust brands, executives, and collaborators have in her. The entertainment world thrives on attention, but it's a double-edged sword. Too much of the wrong kind, and doors start to close quietly in the background. As for Cardi herself, she brushed off the drama publicly, making jokes and moving on to new projects. But behind the humor, the scandal leaves lingering questions. Will she learn to navigate fame with more control, or will moments like this continue to define her career? Can her raw energy remain an asset without spiraling into self-sabotage? In the end, the pen was never really the story. It was a spark that lit up bigger conversations about celebrity accountability, media responsibility, and the fragile line between keeping it real and losing it all. And whether people sided with Cardi or the reporter, one thing was certain, everyone was watching, and no one will forget the day a pen nearly rewrote a superstar's narrative.